Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Sunday night feature here at Robbins Racing TV, live on the YouTube channel. It is, of course, GT3 night in race 5 of 6 races set out for season 3 here at 2020. Just exiting the final 2 minutes of free practice on this quite distinguishable Autodrome di Monza, just north of Milan in northern Italy. Pretty much the home of European motorsport, I'd say. As soon as you leave the UK, you've got to look towards Monza. Changed quite a bit over the years. We are, of course, rolling on the new circuit here. No historics inside the GT3 Championship this time around. And just as the lobby fills out, we can have a little look through what the drivers are looking to try and get out the car. So 4 of our drivers currently inside the 1 minute 46 second region. I expect those times to come down ever so slightly when we get into qualification, but those are some pretty quick times there as we see a battered and bruised Ferrari of its PT there. Been through the wars a little bit. He's currently sat in 3rd in the standings though, and if he can get himself into a similar qualifying position, he'll be made up. And we've got Cantu Diz. We saw him as a ringer inside the Robbins Racing Touring Car Championship on Tuesday. Looks as though he's been brought in to replace a couple of drivers unable to make it in the championship this week. Cam Diz showing his pace not only in the touring cars where he won that initial sprint race, but also showing it in the GT3s as well, up there with the best of them, sub 147s here, while the rest of the pack are struggling to try and get some pace into their practice session. So as we enter the final 20 seconds here in the free practice, let's have a little run through the championship standings after race 4. So Duftino is currently leading the pack on 257 points in the GT3 Championship. Thorsten Smith, 38 points adrift now in 2nd place. Remember, ladies and gents, 35 points for a race victory here and bonus points for qualification and fastest lap in the race. So Duftino now with a bit of buffer zone. Thorsten Smith's going to have his game face on tonight if he wants to try and keep his dreams alive of winning this championship. Next down the list we've got It's PT, currently sat in 3rd place. He's 34 points adrift of Thorsten Smith on 185 points. So it looks as though a podium finish in the championship is looking pretty likely for the German sat in 2nd. NRP, our league coordinator, is in 4th place. He's on 174 points, so only 11 points behind It's PT, with Bruce Law a further 19 points behind NRP in 5th position. Traven is sat in 6th, he's on 141 points. Then Travis is just behind him, 14 points adrift in 7th position. He's unable to make it tonight, so he is being replaced by one of the 3 replacement drivers brought up from the reserves for tonight's race. We do hope to see Travis back on track next week. In 8th position, we've got Clark on 126 points, so a pretty close battle between himself and Travis at the moment. VMX Rider, our debutant this season around, he finds himself currently sat in 9th position on 103 points, with Lionsfoot behind him, 34 points behind in 10th position. Alright Turkish, another debutant in the GT3s this season round, he finds himself in 11th position on 59 points, with Fast AF Gamer sat in 12th on 56. Fast AF Gamer also unable to make it here for tonight's race, so he's being replaced by one of our reserve drivers. 13th place is TomTom in the championship. Currently sat on 44 points, he's just behind Fast AF Gamer. He's also unable to make it here tonight. Then we've got Hurlo in 14th, one of our recent additions to the championship, followed by Evan, who's currently sat in 15th position. So as the drivers look to be getting out, looked as though we just saw the Audi R8 of, I think it was Turkish, just heading out. It is indeed, and I do believe that that is the blue liveried AMG of NRP as well. That's actually exited the track first time around, looking to get an early lap in here. I don't know whether or not it's just my screen, but the front end of that Mercedes looking all sorts of skew-if. I don't think they've replaced the bodywork between practice and qualifying here. So 10 minutes of qualification will get us underway into tonight's sprint race. The sprint race itself is going to be set over 20 minutes. Looks as though, against the weather report, we're looking at light cloud through the sprint race. Then for our feature race, we're going to have a reverse rolling start grid as ever in the GT3 Championships. The feature race is of course going to be double the race of the sprint, so we'll calculate how many laps we had and then we'll double them. There will also be a mandatory pit stop enabled on that one as well, so we'll keep an eye out on who's got the pit strategy firing on all cylinders as that race develops. So just looking over to the YouTube comments, looking at some of our regular viewers. Good evening to JR Sim Racing and to Red Snake. For those of you that aren't aware, Red Snake, the father of Thorsten Smith, follows all of his races around, so good evening to you, sir. Hope you're well. And just worth mentioning, JR is wishing all the luck that he can to NRP, hoping to give him hell against this Monza track here. I imagine he certainly put in the time. We'll have to wait and see what his lap times come to show up here. 3 drivers still inside the pits. I beg your pardon, 2 drivers still inside the pits in the form of Traven and Cam Diz. Cam Diz had bags of pace inside that practice session. So let's see what he can produce here when he finally does get out on track. We are currently tracking NRP though around the course in his blue and yellow liveried Mercedes. He's going to be the first one to set a hot lap in today's session. We'll keep an eye out on those sectors as they develop. See Nicky now just braking into Seconda Variante. Looks as though he's got that pretty well poised. That Mercedes looking really well balanced through here as he just enters the first part of Lesmos here. Just a little lift and dab of throttle. Didn't hear a gear change there into second part of Lesmos, so that's looking pretty good. Sector times have come in. NRP are currently tracking around with a 36.96. It looks as though the only person beating that so far is Duftinho, our current championship leader. We'll keep an eye out on how his lap is developing. But now as NRP makes that long run down the straight just after the end of Ascari into Parabolica. The dabs of throttle there as he tries to get it round. His tyre's not yet fully up to temperature, so I don't think this is going to be the hottest that we're going to see NRP going round. He's set at 38.4 in Sector 2, and in comparison, we've got Duftinho and Evan both inside the 37 second region. And he puts in a lap of a 147.5, and if we judge that from the practice session, that could well put him up, I'd say, around about the top 10 at least. But Duftinho now crossing the line with a 146.486, so he leads the running order at the moment. Let's have a look how these develop as the rest of the drivers come around. Good lap as well from VMX and Evan. Relative newcomers inside these GT3 cars, looking to get a good starting position. I know that you see Duftinho there catching a bit of grass. I wonder if he was just moving his car off track, maybe making some adjustments. I'll have to wait and see. Let's go over to Stealth Sheep. He's running in a blue and red liveried Ferrari. Brought in as a ringer on this. Stealth Sheep, I think you didn't hear me interviewing him inside the Touring Car Championship. He's currently trying to knock Demobi off his triple back-to-back championship run inside the Touring Cars on a Tuesday. Member of staff here at Rubbins Racing, brought in as a reserve driver for this GT3 race. And looks as though its PT is also putting his stamp down inside that Ferrari. The Tifosi will be absolutely buzzing if the Ferraris can lock themselves into a good spot here. We've seen it often dominated by the Lamborghini Huracans. And although it's an Italian brand, you never going to be able to spot more Lamborghini flags than Ferrari flags here at Monza. It's PT. Let's have a look how his current lap's developing. It looks as though he's gone green in Sector 1, so he is making improvements. He's around about 13 tenths away from Duftinho at the moment in his Sector 1 split, so not much time in it whatsoever. Good Sector 2 and Sector 3 will definitely put him in contention of that pole position. Cam Diz out the pits and into second place provisionally at the moment. Fantastic lap from him. Looked as though it was all made up in Sector 3 as well. It looks as though he's got 4 tenths on Duftinho in Sector 3. So I imagine getting that hookup out of Ascari into the straight and into Parabolica. Much cleaner than Duftinho. We'll have to wait and see how that one develops. We are just tracking its PT around the second half of Parabolica now. Let's see what his lap time's going to come in at. He's gone green in both of his first 2 sectors, so it should be an improvement. And it's actually put him down the running order after Thorsten Smits come in there. Only 13 tenths away from our current provisional pole sitter in the form of Duftinho. Let's jump over to Cam Diz. Let's have a look at him take his red and white liveried AMG around this course. So just into Ascari now. A little bit of lag there, and I think a breach of track limits. That's going to punish him. I imagine that one's going to be invalid this time around. So Stealth Sheep currently sat in 7th position. Good qualifying times from him. Looks as though we've got Dan and J-Palm joining us on the screen. Good to see our regulars here. In fact, it looks as though J-Palm unable to watch this one, but he is definitely rooting for Thorsten to try and push Duftinho and close up that lead that he's got inside the championship. J-Palm, much like a lot of our other neutral viewers here, hoping for it to go down to the wire into the final race. So Cam Diz looks as though that lap didn't count. He is only 18 tenths away from our current leader, and that's a very small push. He's got enough time for another 2 laps here though. The one that he's currently running on, and then he should have enough time, if all goes right, to get one final lap in. Whether or not his fuel's going to help him along with that, I'm not too sure. Only 5 litres in the tank, so we'll be cutting it fine. We'll see how that one develops though. Bruce Law currently sat in 5th position. He is out on a lap at the moment with 2 green sectors, as his PT inside his Ferrari goes and takes first place, but it's immediately taken away from him by Bruce Law. Bruce Law gets a 146.252. Its PT must have been rubbing his hands together at the end of that lap, but he's been pipped to the post by just 43 hundredths there by Bruce Law. It looks as though its PT is job done, as well as we see him returning to the pits. He's not going to have enough time to get another lap in. It looks as though a few of the other boys as well also returning to the pits. Stealth Sheep returns. VMX was already in the pits when we reached the final minute marker, and Traven as well, seeing him right down the order, not where we'd expect him to be, currently setting a 149. We've seen him going much further than that. Remember, Traven currently 6th in the championship. I think the mind-blowing one at the moment though is Bruce Law. Its PT was running well anyway inside free practice, but Bruce Law's pulled that lap out of absolutely nowhere there, and it's going to be a shock to both Cam Diz, Thorsten and Duftinho. Cam Diz just about to cross the line. We'll see what he's been able to put in. It is an improvement. In fact, he's gone sub 146 with a 145.951. Rapid lap there from the ringer. Bruce Law. Let's have a look where he is on track. So he's just come out of Ascari. This is the run down to Parabolica. Bringing up his sector times. He has got green in both Sector 1 and Sector 2. So we could see an improvement here. He's got 3 tenths to make up, plus 4 thousandths, just for good measure. Let's see what he can put in as he comes across the line. So it's enough for an improvement. In fact, he's only a hair width away from Cam Diz, but it's not enough for first position. Let's switch back over to Duftinho, who looks as though he's just come out of Ascari as well. He is indeed on the run down to Parabolica at the moment. He's got 5/10 to make up, just bringing up his split times now, and he's actually gone purple in Sector 2, and he's only 5/100ths away in Sector 1 from Cam Diz that last time around. Does look as though he's abandoned his lap though, so he's going to have to settle for 4th position at best. Let's jump over to Thorsten Smith. Thorsten currently just out of, in fact that looks as though it's the end of Parabolica. It is indeed. Thorsten Smith just about to cross the line. 146.615, it's an improvement, but it's not enough for a position, so Thorsten Smith's going to remain in 5th place unless he can be disturbed by Hurlo in that Bentley GT. In 11th place at the moment. He has gone green in Sector 2. But no improvement there to be made in the end. So here is our running order for tonight's sprint race. Cam Diz, the ringer, comes in and takes pole position ahead of Bruce Law, who put in a fantastic lap, just 2 away from the end. Its PT does enough for 3rd position with a blistering lap inside the Ferrari. Duftinho only manages 4th position as he had to abandon his final lap. Thorsten also unable to make big improvements to get him within the first 2 rows. So he's going to be running alongside Stealth Sheep, currently sat in 6th position, another ringer for tonight's race. And then another row back, we've got Uniclark and VMX Rider, followed by NRP with Evan alongside him. Then it's Hurlo and Dark Ninja and Lionsfoot and Traven making up the second to last, with All Right Turkish at the back of the grid. So as ever, we're going to give our drivers a couple of minutes to set their cars up for tonight's sprint race. Remember, ladies and gents, 20 minutes of racing, no mandatory pit stops are activated. Track limits are turned on, as well as full damage enabled for both of the races that you're going to be watching for this evening. Whilst we're waiting for those drivers to set up, remember, if you are driving Project Cars 2 on the PlayStation 4, and you want to join a clean racing community, then you can get yourself over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk, where you'll find out all the information about what we do here at Rubbins Racing, and also find the information of how you can get involved or become a member of the staff team here to either join in with the commentary, broadcasting, or event hosting of this fantastic community. So just over a minute to go for these drivers to set up, and then we're going to get involved into what is likely to be a very tricky first lap. It always is on this Monza circuit. We'll be keeping an eye out for people missing the braking zones, hopefully using those runoff areas just into the chicane. If they aren't going to make it, last thing we want to see is a pile up here, especially with a couple of drivers making a fantastic effort in qualification. So with just 10 seconds left to go, we're about to get underway here. Let's move a bit further up the order. We'll start in the chase of Thorsten. As we can see the lights, waiting for green, and away they go here at Monza. Looks as though Thorsten's got an amazing start, straight up into 4th position. He's about to jump into 2nd. Great run around the outside there from Thorsten. Really got that Lamborghini going quickly as we jump into the trackside view, and they come into the braking into the first variante. Looks to all be away cleanly. Let's have a little bit of a look further down the pack. Does look as though all drivers through that first chicane nice and clean. That's what we like to see. Let's jump back up to what's going on at the front end of this race. So Cam Diz is leading with Thorsten Smith in tow. Duftinho has managed to get himself up into 3rd. Bruce Law and Its PT dropping down into 4th and 5th respectively. Looks as though Stealth Sheep's worked his way up. In fact, he's just taken Its PT, it seems. Let's have a look at that battle forming. So Ferrari on Ferrari at the moment. Looks as though Its PT's got the inside line though. coming out of the first Lesmos. He's fallen back in line into the second part, and it looks as though we've got a car going. It looks as though it's Duftinho, actually. Duftinho dropping right down the order. He's not going to be able to get past until the rest of the pack go past. So he's found himself right at the back of that running order, potentially with some damage as well. That is exactly what Thorsten required in this race to be able to try and pull down that gap. We're back up to the front though now, watching the rest of the cars come in as we see Cam Diz running down the straight on the run up to Parabolica. He's managed to get himself a 2-second lead as well, so pretty healthy lead. Bruce Law has found himself back up into third position after we lost Duftinho, and he span it around. And we'll keep an eye out on the split time between Duftinho, who's currently marked up as VSR in 15th position, and Evan in 14th. Doesn't look as though he's making big gains, which suggests that he's got some pretty serious damage on the front end of that Lamborghini. Don't know whether or not it was a mistake or whether or not there was a nudge going on with Duftinho, but either way he's not going to be happy with an absolute mountain to climb, and he's hemorrhaging time as this race progresses. He's already lost an additional second as to last time we checked on, looks as though it was Evan. It's now Alright Turkish in that 14th position. So we've got 2 packs it seems forming, in fact 3 packs. We've got our front runners. Looks as though Traven is leading up the second pack that we're currently focused on at the moment. It looks as though we've just lost Evan, it seems, spun out in his black and green liveried Lamborghini just at the background of that picture. That's going to allow Duftinho to gain a position as we see Traven there getting very wide on the end of the second Lesmos. Doesn't appear to have hampered his position too much, and it does look as though we've got a bit of a battle forming between Dark Ninja and Lion's Foot. Let's jump on. In fact, was it Dark Ninja or was it the yellow AMG livery of VMX Rider? I think it was Dark Ninja. Looks as though he's got the move made as well. He's currently sat in 8th position. We saw him struggling last time around. But looks as though he's found his form now, perhaps got a little bit of practicing inside the GT3 cars. Currently running in 8th, and that'll be a good finish from our youngster inside that Ferrari. So let's move back up to the top. Looks as though Cam Diz has got himself a healthy 3-second lead to Thorsten Smith. Thorsten currently being challenged by Bruce Law, but he has also got Stealth Sheep and its PT right in tow as well, waiting to jump on any opportunity that they can. Bits PT running around the back of this pack. Looks as though Uniclark is not too far away either inside that silver Bentley. Keep an eye out on him. He'll be looking for any mistakes being made, looking to jump all over the back of it. Cam Diz leading this one by quite a margin. Looks as though Thorsten Smith made a little dent inside that split time, but it's not lasted for long. Let's jump back to Dark Ninja, currently running in 8th position. He's got Lion's Foot just behind him. Looks as though he was about to make a move on Traven. He's going to try it around the outside. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done into the first Lesmos. But he is holding quite a bit of speed, it seems. Not according to Lion's Foot, though. He has a little sniff up the inside, decides against it, falls back in line, and tries to get the drive out into the run up to Ascari. So let's have a little look at the car just whilst we're waiting for these guys to battle on through. At the state of Duftinho's car, a little bit of front end damage there. I wonder whether or not he's also got maybe some suspension or transmission damage as well that might be holding him back in terms of speed. Currently running alongside Evan though. And with all due respect to Evan, we'd expect him usually, if he found himself in that position, to make the pass quite quickly. We quite often see Duftinho running at the back and making quick passes through the rest of the field. So currently following Thorsten, who's lost a position to Bruce Law. Bruce Law looks to be challenging that split time now of Cam Diz. Got it down to within 2 seconds, but it looks as though little mistakes being made there into the run-up of the first Variante. Looks as though Thorsten had to correct after braking. That caused Stealth Sheep to have to adjust his line. All fair, of course. These drivers are allowed to make mistakes. There was no contact made either, but that's allowed Bruce Law just to pull away that little bit further coming out of that first chicane. Oh, as we see Thorsten Smith running on two wheels. That's going to give him a big loss of momentum and allow its PT and Stealth Sheep to try and close up the gap. Doesn't look as though it's hurt him too badly though. So looking at the lap times as they're coming in, Dufftinho on 151s that last time around. He's just finished his lap. 151.3 from our championship leader. That suggests that I was right in my assumption. He is currently running with some damage. Obviously believes that it's not going to hurt him as little as we see. Stealth Sheep there, getting very wide, having to run onto the grass. He gets back on track, allows 8PT to pass him safely. Does look as though Stealth Sheep is now potentially at risk of getting picked off from Uniclark for that 5th position spot. Let's see whether or not he can hold it all the way up into Parabolica. We'll have to wait and see. Looks as though he's managed to hold that position. There was no damage. He didn't collide with any walls, just a little bit of grass. And he had to wait until he could rejoin the track safely so he didn't interfere with its PT's line. It's exactly what we want to see from our drivers. So Stealth Sheep there setting the benchmark of what we expect in terms of track etiquette. Has unfortunately cost him one position and quite a bit of time though in that battle up for 3rd place against Thorsten. So let's have a look at NRP, currently running in 10th position. He's got Hurlo for company just behind him. Hurlo in that white Bentley. Not sure what happened to NRP. He's found himself a little bit further down the running order than he'd have liked to have been. He's currently 1.5 seconds behind his good friend VMX Rider. Great to see VMX Rider inside this championship, one of our latest additions to the Rubbins Racing staffing team. He's been a member for quite a long time, very passionate about his racing, and he's obviously finding his feet quite comfortably inside these GT3 cars. We've seen a few mixes coming in from him, depending on the tracks. So obviously suited to a few setups inside that AMG. I'm sure as the seasons progress we'll see improvements as he works his way up the table. So Cam Diz, let's have a brief look over as we're just 1.5 minutes away from our halfway point here. We can see the gap formed up between him and Bruce Law, 3.7 seconds at the moment. He's come in and he's currently setting a purple in Sector 1 with a 36.9. His Sector 2s aren't looking too groundbreaking. But his race pace around this circuit, 147.4s, only being matched by Bruce Law in the same car, just a different livery that last time around. In fact, he's gone into a 146.6 this lap around. Let's have a look at what Bruce Law can produce at 147.3. So opening up a rather substantial gap here. Have a look at the battle between its PT and Stealth Sheep. Stealth Sheep looks as though he's been able to close up the gap now. We did see him losing it to its PT, catching a little bit too much grass on the exit of Ascari. It doesn't look as though he's yet in firing range of its PT in the white Ferrari. We'll have to wait and see how this one progresses. Let's jump back into trackside and have a look down at Lionsfoot. He's currently trying to push Traven for 7th place, so Lionsfoot going well in the Ferrari here at Monza. And it looks as though Traven there may be bogged down a little bit on the exit of the Seconda Variante. Looks as though he's managed to get the power back down again and just broaden up that gap. Potentially a difference in the cars there. The Lamborghini seems to just be able to pull away that little bit easier than the Ferrari. Let's have a look what they're looking like as they come into the braking of Ascari. You see there, Traven's car just struggling a little bit under braking. We see him losing the front end, just wobbling ever so slightly, whereas the Ferrari looks pretty poised. No major difference in terms of the split between the two though, as we see Lionsfoot now trying to clutch on to the slipstream. Doesn't look as though it's giving him much benefit. It looks as though he's actually lost a little bit of a gap there between him Traven running quite deep onto the entrance to Parabolica though. We'll see how that one progresses when they get themselves down to the straight. So Cam Diz currently leading the race ahead of Bruce Law, who's got around about 4.5 seconds to the third place of Thorsten Smith. Worth noting as well, Duftino has managed to get himself up into 12th place, as we see Lionsfoot there just making a mistake on the sort of exiting section of the first chicane. That's going to put him right down the order. Looks as though he's currently in 10th, and he's looking to maybe be chased down by Hurlo here. Looks as though he's going to hold him off. Have a look over to Duftino. He's currently running in clean air, but he's got 3 seconds ahead to All Right Turkish. That's a bit of a bonus to him in terms of how many points he's going to lose due to that spin and collision, it seemed. See his car there really struggling under brakes. See whether or not he's twitchy on exit. It looks as though the car is relatively stable. I'm suspecting some front left suspension damage is causing the loss in speed and lap times from Duftino. Back up to the front though. Let's have a look at its PT and stealth sheet. Fantastic battle forming up between these two Ferraris. It's been going on for quite some time. Are we going to see them exchange positions before the 7.5 minute timer of this sprint race is up and done? Doesn't look as though Stealth Sheep is close enough to pull the trigger yet, but we'll wait and see how this one progresses. A little bit of a look down. We've got a battle going on for 9th place. That is NRP chasing VMX Rider. Hurlo just in the background as well. It looks as though Hurlo managing to take on Lionsfoot in the end. Lionsfoot, I don't suspect there was any damage that slowed him down. I think it was just the loss of momentum after having to try and get his car spun around on the runoff and then back onto the track. So NRP with quite a lot to do against his old chum. Same car, just two different colours in fact. Blue and yellow versus yellow and green. See how this one progresses. In the meantime, let's have a look at our front runners. Front pack at the moment, these two find themselves around about 10 seconds behind the leader. Cam Diz is just putting in monster lap after monster lap, it seems. 146.9 that last time around. It's really good race pace. He was around about 1 second quicker in quali, but he's almost taking it easy, it seems, keeping that distance up to around about 4 seconds between him and the second place of Bruce Law. So just under 6 minutes remaining in this race. Let's have a look at our leader at the moment. Just coming round the Parabolica to complete lap 8. It looks as though we're going to be able to get a few more laps in the remaining 5.5 minutes. That is going to dictate how many we're going to see within our feature race tonight. That gap being maintained at around about 4 seconds, but Cantu Diz, fantastic driver. We knew this before he entered any of the championships. He's been sat patiently on the reserve list, and it looks as though he snatched his chance to find himself in both the Touring Car Championship and now as a first-time reserve driver inside the GT3 Championship. This is going to be his only race unless we see any of the drivers unable to get back into the championship for next week that are absent tonight. So Cam Diz will have his points reserved. At the moment, only running as a reserve driver and currently showing the rest of the field how it's done. Bruce Law, interesting, last lap around, he's gone green with a 147.022. So Bruce Law trying to do his very best to minimise that gap between him and Cam Diz. It just seems like it's a call and response exercise. I imagine that when that gap starts to get slower, we'll see Cam Diz really put his foot down and try and extend that lead. So it looks as though Cam Diz is soon to be approaching the Lamborghini of Evan, it seemed. So in just 9 laps, these guys are starting to come up to the back markers here. Looks as though VMX and NRP have brought that gap a little bit closer between the two cars. Remember, ladies and gents, VMX in the yellow and green Mercedes-Benz AMG, NRP in the blue and yellow. Just having a little look about where he can get himself. He's not going to try and plant one down into the braking of Parabolica. Instead backs off and looks to run his own line. Very patient driver in the form of NRP, also in VMX, to be honest. These guys are only aggressive when they seem to know it can pay off for them. Very calculated drivers with plenty of experience. In fact, NRP there just having a little look up the inside. He's going to try and pull away on the alternative line into the first chicane. Didn't make it happen, but potentially just trying to unnerve VMX rider there a little bit. We are now into the final 3 minutes of this first sprint race of the evening. In case you are only just joining us, no, your screens are correct. We currently have Duftino, the championship leader, down into 12th. He actually had a spin. It looks as though VMX, they're making a mistake. That's going to allow NRP up through the inside of the first Lesmos. And that's going to be job done, I think, from NRP. We'll continue to see if VMX rider can throw anything back his way, but look to be relatively routine in the end. So as I was saying, Duftino making a mistake, it seemed, but not too sure whether or not there was contact. That ended up putting him onto the grass, and with a heavy collision into the right-hand side armorco or wall, doing some damage to that car. That's why you're seeing him so far down the running order. Currently running in 12th though, so it's been quite a good recovery from him. So we see a VMX there just getting a lot of gravel, scooping up the kitty litter and bringing it up onto the exit of Ascari. Luckily, only a couple of minutes racing left, and it's not going to affect too many laps. So as we return back to our current race leader, Cantu Diz, brought in as a reserve driver for tonight's race, currently on lap 11, just about to begin lap 12. Been a flawless run here from a very experienced driver, but you haven't seen him much here on RRTV. Expect to see more of him and expect to see his name mentioned more and more by our commentary team, because he's a very fast driver and he's proven it here today. Just unable to be matched really in terms of the race. In fact, Bruce Law was the only one who could come close to him inside qualification. These two drivers get in sub 146s in their qualifying runs. So fantastic effort from those two. Dawson Smith, last time around, he actually put in his fastest lap of the race with a 147.492. Oh, as we see, it looks as though Evan there making a big mistake. Ends up spinning it on track. He's keeping himself well out of the way now of the rest of the drivers. Not sure what happened, as we see him now retiring to the pits. Taking that obstruction off the track. So 20 seconds left to go. This is going to be the final lap of the race once Candice crosses the line. Final lap, ladies and gentlemen. Lap 12 of tonight's sprint race. Looks as though Duftino has currently got Lion's Foot ahead of him. Let's see how this one progresses. Looks as though Duftino has been able to shave off around about a second in that damaged Lamborghini Huracan. Now got it down to 150.443 last time around, and that is his green lap of the race. So 150.44. Duftino's fastest in this 12-lap race. That just shows the extent of the damage done. Remember, he did start a little bit further down to what we expect him. And he's pushing hard there to try and get that 11th place off Lion's Foot. So he's going to have one more shot at that 11th place as they now enter their final lap of the running. Camdes, though, looks as though he's just come out of... I think it was out of the Lesmos. Yeah, he's just coming up to Ascari now. 5 seconds gap between him and Bruce Law, it seems. Fantastic driving from him in that 127 liveried Mercedes-Benz AMG. And is he going to cause an upset to the rest of the championship come the feature race? I think it'll all depend on strategy, because we are going to have a big advantage going out to Duftinho here. Remember, reverse order grid for the feature race. So Duftinho is going to find himself starting in 4th position. Fortunately, due to Evans' retirement, he's going to find himself at the back, but Cam Diz takes a solid victory in tonight's sprint race. Bruce Law as well, finally getting a great finish in his season. It's been quite late on, but that's definitely going to help his battle with NRP and its PT for that 3rd place podium championship spot. Thorsten Smith comes and crosses the line in 3rd position, so that's going to help his championship development. Stealth Sheep ends up coming across the line in 4th place. Uniclark's going to be next in the running order. Its PT is not far away from him either. We saw great qualifying pace from its PT. Looks as though a few mistakes have cost him come the sprint race. Travin then makes up a fair bit of time, as we saw him really far away from the front leaders, around about halfway point. NRP does enough for 8th place, with VMX Rider having to settle for 9th. That was a great battle between those two. Hurlo ends up finishing up in 10th place. Looks as though Duftinho is about to get the job done. In fact, he's got the job done on Lion's Foot in the end. Lion's Foot does enough for 12th place. Dark Ninja ends up crossing the line in 13th, with Alright Turkish in 14th. Don't forget, ladies and gents, Evan did retire just 1 lap away from the end, so he's going to get half of his points for that 15th place added on, as he has raced enough of the race to qualify for that. Just having a look through the running order then, we'll go through it one more time. Cam Diz gets the top spot, followed by Bruce Law in 2nd, with Thorsten in 3rd place. Stealth Sheep does enough for 4th, with Uniclark in 5th, followed by its PT. Then Travin in 7th, made up by NRP in 8th, VMX Rider in 9th, and Hurlo does enough in that Bentley Continental GT in 10th position. Duftinho finds himself in 11th, with Lion's Foot followed in 12th, 13th place for Dark Ninja, 14th for Alright Turkish, and Evan, after his retirement, qualifies in 15th place. So we're going to now go to our lobby, get this feature race set up. In the meantime, let me know how you think this one's going to progress through. Are we going to see dominance from Cam Diz? Are we going to see perhaps a dominance from Duftinho? Don't forget, he's going to have a great starting position after the reverse order grid. He's going to want to try and make those moves pretty quick to try and get past the rest of the pack and then build up as much of a lead as he can. We're going to have around about 10 minutes break now for these drivers to get themselves fresh drink, maybe wipe themselves down and get themselves psyched and set up for tonight's feature. In the meantime, we'll let you go and get a drink, and I'll give you a shout in just a couple of minutes. Ready and set for tonight's feature. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are, of course, just in our break here between the sprint race of tonight's GT3 Championship. Remember, race 5 out of 6, the penultimate race of the championship, just about to get things set for tonight's feature. Race directors set it up with 25 laps for tonight's feature. Remember, there is going to be a mandatory pit stop enabled, and we're going to be running in a reverse order grid. So let me bring up that grid now. We're going to have Alright Turkish leading away the pack, followed by Dark Ninja, who's then going to be making up the second row with Lion's Foot and Duftinho. Keep an eye out on Duftinho in that second row. Hurlo and VMX Rider are going to be in third row, followed by NRP behind VMX, with Traven alongside NRP. Then, as we move up to the next, we've got It's PT alongside Uniclark, and then Stealth Sheep is going to find himself behind Uniclark with Thorsten Smith alongside Stealth Sheep. Then Bruce Law is going to be tucked in behind Thorsten with Cam Diz alongside him. And then Evan, after his retirement to the pits, will find himself at the back of the running order for this race. Unfortunate that he couldn't get that car going for a couple more laps, but I think perhaps some damage sustained and the car just undrivable. So it looks as though the weather forecast has changed ever so slightly. We saw quite clear conditions in the sprint race. Looks as though we're a little bit overcast now. That's going to play into the guys' favour when it comes down to tyre wear, I do believe. Track temperatures likely to be a little bit less. So we'll see what these drivers can make, whether or not we'll see any switch over to the soft tyres. We've seen in the majority of the races in this season's GT3 Championship, most of the drivers unable to make the softs work for the longevity of the race. We'll see whether or not it's going to be set up for this one. So just listening to the chatter in the paddock here from the drivers as they've come into the break. Looks as though there was a few little niggling issues. Seems as though NRP struggling to get his brakes up to temperature and maintaining a consistent braking characteristic. We also had, it seemed as though Lion's Foot, eager to get his pace down on track, seemed that he found himself in amongst traffic. Struggled to get around them, and that's what cost him in terms of places. We can see how this one progresses through, though. A few drivers looking to try and capitalise off the starting position into the feature race. We could see that without any damage, these guys have plenty of pace. To see how it transpires. Run you through the running order once again for tonight's feature race. So at the very front of the rolling pack, we're going to be taken out by Alright Turkish. Behind him, it's going to be Dark Ninja. Then following him, it's Lion's Foot. Then Duftinho. Then Hurlo's going to be behind Duftinho. VMX Rider behind Hurlo. Followed by NRP, who's going to be followed in turn by Traven. Then as we move up to our front runners, behind Traven, it's PT. Followed by Uniclark, who's going to be followed by Stealth Sheep. Behind Stealth Sheep is Thorsten Burkhardt or Thorsten Smith. Second to last is Bruce Law, Cam Diz, and then starting up at the very back of the pack, it's going to be Evan. So just a couple of minutes for these guys to set their fuel, tyre pressures, any change in tyre based on the temperature. We'll have to wait and see whether or not those come out, and set up their race strategy for their pit crews in time for the mandatory pit stop. Whilst we wait for that, we'll give you a bit of a run through on what you can expect in our final week of Season 3 here at Rubbins Racing. Of course, you'll be able to join me on Tuesday in time for the Rubbins Racing Touring Car Championship. That's going to be an absolute cracker around the world-famous Bathurst circuit over in Australia. Going to be really suited to those touring cars. It's definitely going to be a hard race. And just looking at the championship standings at the moment, Demoby is currently topping out that championship. But as I bring up the standings, that gap was previously a lot closer to the second place of Stealth Sheep. Stealth Sheep having a few issues last time around. He finds himself 42 points away from the leader, so we could well see our first Triple Crown champion in the form of Demoby on that race on Tuesday evening. Then on Thursday, it's time for our Thursday Night Lights. GT5 Janettas on Friday, same time at 8 o'clock. You can join all of the broadcasts here on our YouTube channel. Then on Saturday, it's our non-broadcasted Indycar final. Indycars have been in trial for this season. It looked to have been quite a popular championship. In the end, they're going to be taking it round Daytona in their final race of the championship. And then, of course, Sunday brings us to our Formula Renault Championship, where our drivers will be racing around the Snetterton 300, and then, of course, the final GT3 race of the season around Bathurst. So 2 Bathurst specials coming up in the final week of the season. But now let's focus on tonight's feature race here at the Autodromo di Monza. Let's see these guys make their way through the running order, get themselves started up. As All Right Turkish takes his place at the front of the grid. We'll see these guys trying to maintain their tyre temperatures without putting too much strain on the tyres. You can see there that All Right Turkish has decided against the soft tyres. I think if we're going to see any changes, let's have a look. Bruce Law also going with the hard slicks, so I don't think any of these drivers will have taken the punt on the softs. We'll see as that develops. I'll keep my eye out on the top right hand side of our screen where it says the vehicle status. If we do see any soft runners, we'll let you know. Looks as though the current pace setter running with a little bit too much pace, it seems. Gonna have to slow down and allow that pack to build up behind him. Should be around about 80 miles an hour. We can see there he's currently doing around about 100 through the second Lesmos. Just slowing it down now to allow the rest of the pack to close up. (96 degrees Fahrenheit the track temperature, so the clouds overhead haven't cooled it down too much. That's why those drivers out there obviously deciding to stick with their hard tyres. It looks as though Turkish is actually suffering from his front right cooling down a little bit. You see him starting to weave, trying to get some temperature back into that. That is, of course, going to affect him on the run out of the first chicane. Prima Variante here. Going to be a lot of strain on that front right hand corner tyre. As we see Evan now just making his way back around, so it looks as though the pack are all in sight as they're just about to enter Parabolica. We're going to see the as we see the guys forming up. Odd cars will be on the right hand side, even cars will be on the left hand side of their respective rows. As we see them now making their run down, it'll be Alright Turkish deciding when to go. It looks as though he's planted his foot quite early here. It looks as though he's potentially caught Dark Ninja off guard. Got the jump away from the line. It was a great start really from Turkish. Caught most of them off guard. As we see, a car going absolutely wild sideways there. Looks as though it was the red Ferrari of Lion's Foot. Hopefully he's not caught the wall. I couldn't see much damage. It could well have just been maybe a little bit of lag on my side there. So it's Alright Turkish leading ahead of Dark Ninja with Duftinho in third, Lion's Foot in fourth, Hurlo currently in fifth position. Let's jump into the chase cam of him and get a good run of our leaders as they come up into the second chicane here. Although it looks as though he's run a little bit deep. He's caught all sorts of curb and that's caught NRP. We see Cam Diz there having to use the runoff. He's going to have to slow down when he gets that penalty from the race director. Hurlo's mistake has put him all the way down the running order, down into 14th place. He's ahead of only VMX, who I'm assuming has come into some sort of issue because he definitely didn't start that far down the running order. And it looks as though Evan has spun out on the exit there. Has to reverse his car just to get it back into order. That is not what he would have wanted from the start of this one. So Alright Turkish is leading the race still. He's got half a second's lead to Duftinho, who's running in second. Dark Ninja maintaining third for now with Lion's Foot in fourth and NRP in fifth position. If he's managed to get away from that smash into Hurlo, he's done very well not to get any damage. Have to wait and see how that one progresses though. I'm sure his lap times will reflect it. So as they cross the line for the first time at race pace, looks as though Duftinho's going up the inside on Alright Turkish. Made that move look quite easily. The pace of that Lamborghini Huracan, no match for the Audi R8. All these drivers look as though they get through the first chicane quite safely. Looks as though NRP has managed to make a move on its PT there. He's got the outside line now coming into Biasimo. Traven's also right up its PT's exhaust pipes there. He has a little look up the inside. Is he going to go for it? Coming into the second Lesmos. It's going to be brave if he does. I beg your pardon, sorry, into the second chicane. Oh, it looks as though Traven has actually caught NRP. NRP gets spun around. Is he back on track? He is back on track. He's back on track just behind Cam Diz. It's a really sort of distraught start from NRP. Finds himself in two collisions, neither of them his fault, and it puts him right down the running order into 11th place. Meanwhile, whilst we were watching that unfold, you may have noticed VMX Rider has made his mandatory pit stop, so he's the first one to come into the pits as NRP gets very, very wayward there under braking. The back end just seemed to lose it from him. Wonder whether or not that's a little bit of damage, and it looks as though is that the blue and yep, that looks as though that was Stealth Sheep that's already passed. Also getting word in my ear that Thorsten has also made his mandatory pit stop. So Thorsten Smith currently in 14th position. Both him and VMX has made a mandatory pit. The main thing to take away from that though is Thorsten Smith currently 36 seconds behind the leaders. We're just watching a battle unfold between Cam Diz and Uniclark here, dragging up, and it looks as though Bruce Law's also going to be challenged up the inside into the first chicane. Cam Diz takes the position away from Uniclark, and it looks as though Traven and Stealth Sheep now also in for their pit stops quite early. So back to the running order. We'll continue to watch this battle unfold between Cam Diz and Bruce Law. Uniclark's just in tow as well, with NRP slightly in the background. So 3 of our 15 drivers have made their pit stop. In fact, it's now just 4 as we see Evan making his mandatory pit stop. Don't know whether or not he was caught. It did look as though he caught the Armaco on the right hand side, so there could well be some damage repairs there for our Irishman as well. We'll have a little eye on how long his pit marker's on there for. You can see he's still static in that pit lane on the map. It looks as though he's just moving, so the damage doesn't look to have cost him too much. See Candiz there riding the very limits of grip. We saw that car drifting ever so slightly, a little four-wheel drift on the exit of Ascari. And he's gained quite a bit of time, but it looks as though Bruce Law looks to be trying to get around Lion's Foot, and that just blocked the potential move from Candiz. Both Bruce Law and Candiz look to go up the inside of Lion's Foot. Looks as though Bruce Law's got it done. Candiz back into Lion's Foot's slipstream, and now going on to the right hand side on the run up to the first chicane. I'll flash the lights in thanks there for Lion's Foot for making that easy for him. Last thing he wanted to do is get caught up in a battle. Looks as though Alright Turkish has found himself down into 4th position whilst we've been following the action. So Duftinho leads this race. He's got 2.3 seconds ahead of Dark Ninja, who's doing quite well in only his 2nd time out in this GT3 championship. We can see him there in that yellow Ferrari. It's PT, also keeping within range. He's only 4 seconds away from the leader at the moment. Right, Turkish looks as though he's got company now in the form of Bruce Law and Cam Diz. Cam Diz once again stepping out the rear end of that AMG. Looks mighty impressive, and it also looks pretty damn fast as well. Quite often we see cars drifting like that. They look to lose a load of speed, but Cam Diz is keeping the pressure on Bruce Law here. Bruce Law makes an easy pass around the outside on Alright Turkish, as does Cam Diz, so those two are passed quite safely. That's Bruce Law in 4th, Cam Diz in 5th. All of these drivers yet to make their pit stop. Our quickest of the pit makers, currently Thorsten in 11th position, and everyone below him has made their mandatory pit stop. We'll keep on this fantastic battle that's brewing. In fact, it's been going since the very start between Cam Diz and Bruce Law. Bruce Law just managing to maintain that 4th position for now, but does look as though Cam Diz is potentially within the slipstream. He's not going to make it count this time. We're going to see a move under braking, perhaps into the first chicane. It'll be brave if he does. He's going to have to definitely make sure he can make it safely. He doesn't. He decides against it, plays it safe, and he's going to wait until he gets a clear run at it. Let's have a little bit of a look down the running order. Let's have a look at NRP. He's just coming out of the first chicane. In fact, he looks to be losing a bit of time there to Lion's Foot ahead of him in the red Ferrari. And then it's Uniclark and Alright Turkish now finding himself in 6th position after letting Bruce Law and Cam Diz past. Is he going to be able to maintain that position ahead of the battle in Uniclark, Lion's Foot and NRP? Looks as though he caught a little bit too much curb on the exit of the 2nd chicane, and that's going to allow Uniclark to take that position quite cleanly. By the time they reach the first Lesmos, he's taken that position through. Turkish went green last time around with a 150.4. Uniclark in comparison a 148.8 there or thereabouts, so that's how he's managed to make up that amount of time. Let's have a look at the ongoing battle between Bruce Law and Cam Diz. Very evenly matched drivers, as we saw in the qualifying times into the first race. Just ahead of them there, that is Dark Ninja and It's PT. It's PT just making a move around the outside coming into the Parabolica. Let's see whether or not that one's pulled off. Looks as though it has. He's got that move done clearly there, so he must have been really late on the brakes. Fantastic move from It's PT to take 2nd place in the running order. Don't forget, these drivers yet to make the mandatory pit stop. Looks as though Dark Ninja's decided that now is the time. He comes into the pits. So that pushes Cam Diz, Uniclark, Alright Turkish up a position, as of Bruce Law. Looks as though Hurlo has also made his mandatory pit stop. So that is 7 of our 15 driver field now making their mandatory pit stop. They'll be running to the end of this race. Everybody from 9th position and below. So back up to the front. Got Bruce Law and Cam Diz continuing their battle They're only 3.8 seconds away from Duftinho, who's currently leading this race. We just saw there Evan returning back to track. He's really been struggling on the exit of I think it's of the second chicane. Looks to be just getting himself all out of shapes on the exit of that corner. See whether or not he can recover this race ever so slightly when everybody else starts to make their pit stops. Of course, any drivers with substantial damage, he should well see himself in a chance to try and gain a few more points. Looks as though we've got a bit of a battle going on between Lionsfoot and Alright Turkish at the moment. Lionsfoot in the red Ferrari, Alright Turkish in the red and black Audi R8. It doesn't look as though Alright Turkish is within a chance to try and take that position from Lionsfoot just yet. In fact, looking at his sectors, it looks as though he's almost a second off in Sector 2. That's the big difference that we're seeing between these two drivers. Lionsfoot quicker by half a second in Sector 1, but it's almost a full second in Sector 2. And as they come across the line, it looks as though Alright Turkish there or thereabouts in line with Lionsfoot in Sector 3 that last time around. Evan back inside the pit lane. Might well be some further damage repairs on that Lamborghini Huracan. Not a great race for our Irishman. He's going to have to try and get himself back on track and keeping on the black stuff for the remainder of this one. We see it's PT just about to be challenged by Cam Diz and Bruce Law. Bruce Law currently in third place, Cam Diz in fourth. We saw it's PT just getting a little bit wild there as Cam Diz still struggles to contain that oversteer. Moves up to the inside to have a little look up. Bruce Law's outside on the run down to Ascari. Now he just decides to sit in the slipstream and try and build upon it. Got to be hard for Bruce Law though. He's got Cam Diz breathing down his neck on every single corner, just waiting for a mistake to be made. He's not just waiting for that mistake as well, he's trying to force them. You can see him making moves up that Bruce is going to have to try and cover. You see him there just having a little look up the inside, trying to unnerve him. And that's evident in the amount that It's PT's been able to pull away, and it looks as though Cam Diz has managed to get it done up the inside of Parabolica there. Takes third place from Bruce Law. Cam Diz moves up into third place. Bruce Law falling back into fourth position now. So Duftinho with a 2.7 second lead here. Let's have a look at Thorsten at the moment. He finds himself around about 35 seconds behind the leader. That's Dark Ninja just ahead of him as Uniclark and Lionsfoot now come into the pits. So two more drivers making their mandatory pit stop for this evening. Back on with Cam Diz, who looks as though he's now about to try and take the position from It's PT. Definitely battling hard for it, just picking up a little bit of dirt there, losing the back end. He does well to try and contain it, but that might well allow Bruce Law to close up that gap even further. Bruce Law looking to get clean through that second chicane. Cam Diz just squirreling a little bit, ever so slightly, catching a little bit too much track. He's certainly pushing hard though, as Dominic on the stream has mentioned. Cam Diz is a machine. I think he's not just a machine, he looks an alien bit of machinery compared to the... I mean, we've seen how good these guys are inside a GT3 car throughout all of this season's championships. In fact, through all of our championships that have ever been hosted here at RR. But Cam Diz has just schooled a lot of our seasoned pros here at RR completely in just two races. Currently running in third position. He's trying to challenge It's PT for second. We'll have to wait and see how this one progresses through. Thorsten now up to 8th place. He's made that move past Uniclark after Uniclark made his pit stop. Got Dark Ninja yet to take on. Dark Ninja's actually found himself in a pretty good place. He's made his pit stop. His pace is pretty good in terms of the people that are ahead of him. We can see there he's got around about 2 seconds ahead of the pace of Alright Turkish and NRP. those guys have yet to make their pit stops as well, so Dark Ninja could well see himself within a top 10 position here. NRP is just coming into the pits. Let's try and have a look at how big of a pit stop this is going to be. I start my stopwatch there just as he stops. You see his tyre guys are ready, no changes being made there, just pressures and he's away pretty quick. That's just a couple of seconds there from NRP. That's what he's going to want to have had almost flawless, so very little damage has to be repaired there. Moving back to our leader, we've got Duftinho at the moment, and that gap ahead to its PT has been reduced to just 1.3 seconds, so its PT pushing hard after the pressure of Cam Diz in third position. That spurred him on, and now he's come within viewing distance there of Duftinho. Duftinho's leading this race. He's going to be hard fought to take to the end, that's for sure. So as we progress, we can see the back marker of, oh no, I beg your pardon, that is Duftinho that we're currently seeing. It's PT in the white and green Ferrari ahead of him, with Cam Diz behind him and Bruce Law just following up at the rear. Continue to see how this one goes. Let's jump into Bruce Law's chase cam. In fact, a terrible time to do it as Bruce Law decides to make his mandatory pit stop now. So we jump in with Cam Diz. Let's see what he can do on braking into the first chicane here. See him with a similar braking area to its PT, just looking at the braking markers. Just a few corrections on exit, but then the power comes down and that roaring AMG opens right up. But the Ferrari of its PT has been set up so well that there's very little gained on the exit of the corners. Quite traditionally, we'll see the power of that AMG unit move right through and mince most of the rest of the field, but its PT has got it singing here at Monza. Let's have a little bit of a look down the running order. Thorsten Schmidt has now found himself in 6th position. He's able to take that position from Dark Ninja with a couple of seconds difference in their lap times last time around. So he moves up into 6th place, and remember folks, he has made his mandatory pit stop, so he's 33 seconds away from the leader at the moment. Our top 5 drivers yet to make their pit stop. Looks as though we've got a battle forming down the pack here. Stealth Sheep, Hurlo and Lion's Foot all battling out. This is currently for 10th position. Stealth Sheep running in the front in that number 8 Ferrari, Hurlo in the 84 Bentley, and then Lion's Foot in the all red Ferrari just running behind them. So these drivers all seem to be matching each other's pace this time around. Looking at the lap times though, Stealth Sheep with 2 seconds lead ahead of them, so I think mistakes being made from Stealth Sheep to allow this one to close up. And it looks as though its PT has been able to take Duftinho as we've followed that gap behind the back. Duftinho's made a mistake and he's going to be open up to the oncoming challenge now of Cam Diz. Its PT takes the race lead in lap 12 here. And Cam Diz looks to be making his moves on Duftinho. He's not going to get it done in this corner though. He falls right back in time for the second chicane, but he's got the drive running up to the first Lesbos. He's up in through the inside and he makes it relatively routine. Duftinho falls back down to 3rd place. So now our league championship leader in Duftinho finds himself just 30 seconds back from his nearest competitor, and he's yet to make his pit stop. Thorsten Schmidt will be egged on by this news if he's got me through his ears at the moment. He'll be pushing hard. Expect those lap times to be trying to come down from Thorsten, try and close up that gap and hopefully get him a free pit stop in respect to his closest championship rival. its PT has now got to try and suffer the constant pressure that he's going to get from Cam Diz in the upcoming laps. Duftino looks as though he's going a little bit wide on that one. Found himself out of shape. I know he's not a big fan of Monza. In fact, it was funny, but we also, in the chat on the build-up to this race, heard Bruce Law mentioning that it isn't his favourite track to race on. You certainly wouldn't think it based upon his pace and his finishing position in the last race. Looks to be his best finish of the season, I think. So we'll have to wait and see what he can do here on a track that he's not too fond of. Thorsten looks as though he's lost a little bit of time. It looks as though that's been picked up from Demobi as well. He also picks up on the front that even if Thorsten wins this race, he's not going to lead the final race of the championship ahead of Duftino. Even despite that first race's antics, with Duftino finding himself right down the running order after a mistake being made. Of course, though, it will give him a chance in to our final race of the season next week around that Mount Panorama circuit in Bathurst. It'll be a really tricky one to keep these GT3s out of trouble. Very fast circuit. A lot of drivers very familiar with it, so they're going to have to work tirelessly on the setups, especially if it's a dry race. Expect very high temperatures with plenty of tyre wear going on. Cam Diz looks as though he's about to make a move up the outside here. Is he going to get it done? It looks as though he's got the pace to, if he can carry the speed, if you're going to cut through up into the inside and try a cut back on the exit of Parabolica. He's not. He's just going to fall in line and try and pick up that slipstream. Cam Diz, though, pushing its PT very hard here, and it's evident inside the lap times. Lap times last time around, 148.4 in its PT. 147.9 from Cam Diz, so the pressure of Cam Diz definitely playing into his hands at the moment. Duftino's only 2 seconds away from its PT though. So Duftino's still in with a chance of a good finish in this race, even once he does complete his mandatory pit stop. Same with Alright Turkish, he's currently running in 4th position. He's 31.5 seconds away from the leader at the moment. He's got Bruce Law coming up next to him, and then a very competitive rival in the way of Thorsten. Currently in 6th place, he's likely to come up to him. We've seen a lot of comments coming to and from those two drivers, so they'll be looking to Thorsten will be looking to get past him with ease. I don't think Alright Turkish is going to make it easy for him. As long as these drivers keep it clean, that's all we want to see. We don't mind a little bit of healthy competition, especially when these guys are battling for position, just like its PT and Cam Diz at the moment. Its PT driving fantastically well in his defensive positions against the approaches of Cam Diz. Cam Diz unable to get past him. We're going to see a move around the outside of Parabolica once again. Have to wait and see, but that is the Lamborghini Huracan of Duftino that you can see in the background as well, so just keep him within reach of these two guys. Cam Diz this time opting to stick right on his tail, try and get the slipstream and the toe into the start-finish straight. Looks as though he's going to go around the outside in the run down to the first chicane, and he definitely looks as though there's a difference in speed there. Cam Diz flying around the outside. Is he going to be able to do it under braking? Pressure is now on Cam Diz on whether or not he breaks his braking point. Doesn't want to lock those tyres up. And it looks as though its PT has done it fantastically well. Rising to the pressure there, makes his braking point with precision. And Cam Diz has it all to do once again. So let's have a look at this 5th place. Looks as though we've got Alright Turkish now just ahead of Thorsten Schmidt. So it looks as though Bruce Law managed to get the move done. Alright Turkish running in 5th. Thorsten Schmidt has made his mandatory pit stop. Alright Turkish, Bruce Law, Duftino, Cam Diz and its PT yet to make theirs, as we see Thorsten having a look up the inside. There's contact between the two. That spins Thorsten Schmidt around, and we've seen quite a bit of action between these two drivers. That is definitely going to be controversial. Looks as though Alright Turkish is slowing down though. He's going to allow Thorsten Schmidt to catch right back up. And that did look a little bit naughty from Thorsten Smith there. A little bit of a nudge as he passes through on All Right Turkish. I'm sure that'll be going to the stewards for review. All Right Turkish finds himself falling all the way back down into 8th position. That's now going to release Thorsten into 5th place. Well, there's a reason that I called out the rivalry between these two drivers before they came up to each other. Definitely looked as though there was a bit of afters there, and that will be going to the review, I'm sure. Hopefully not what we've seen, especially as All Right Turkish slowed after the contact was made with Thorsten to allow him to catch back up. So lap 15 now of 25 laps, 10 laps remaining. Its PT is still leading ahead of Cam Diz. Cam Diz actually looks as though he's lost a little bit of time, and that's reflected in his lap times now. Wonder whether or not Cam Diz is struggling with his tyres. We've seen him getting that back end out quite a bit throughout the race. Wonder whether or not his rear tyre temperatures have just started to creep up, and maybe that's what's lost him a little bit of time. I'll have to wait and see though. Fantastic drive from Its PT in that white Ferrari. We saw him setting great laps in the practice, good laps in the qualification. Wasn't enough to get him up there in the top spot, but it does look as though, and I've maybe spoken a little bit too soon, Cam Diz has made a fantastic move up the inside into the first Lesmos. Continues to hold up the inside line. Looks as though Its PT's got the drive actually. He's going to be able to try and hold out the inside line onto the run-up of Ascari. Holds it through into Ascari, but it's not going to be enough. Cam Diz takes the line. Is he going to catch too much curb? No, he controls it perfectly there. So Its PT now falls down into 2nd position. All Right Turkish has decided to make his mandatory pit stop. So it remains Duftinho, Its PT and Cam Diz yet to make their mandatory pit stops, as Its PT looks as though he's run very wide. Is that going to allow Duftinho to catch up the gap? I don't think it is. Duftinho finds himself 2.5 seconds down, and Its PT decides that now is the time to come in for that mandatory pit stop. Let's have a look at how long it's going to be. Hopefully nice and quick. I can imagine that he's got around about that 2% engine damage that he so desires to try and get him in and out as quick as possible. Tyre team looks good. There's no additional fuel being taken on, just a couple of damage repairs and he's away. So maybe 3.5 to 4 seconds from Its PT. And as we follow Bruce Law just coming around the back end of Parabolica onto the start-finish straight, if I bring up the map now, we can see that Its PT is now safely away and up to speed, ready for the braking zone into the first chicane. So Its PT with a good stop there manages to only lose out on 1 position. Cam Diz and Duftinho yet to make their pit stops in tonight's feature race. All other drivers out on track have made that mandatory pit, so they are currently on their race to the finish. Looks as though we've got a bit of a battle forming here between Traven and Stealth Sheep. Stealth Sheep, as a reminder, in that red and blue Ferrari, Traven in the black and orange Lamborghini. Traven looked as though he got a little bit messy out of the first chicane. That's allowed Stealth Sheep to close up that gap. And we're going to see any action coming into the second chicane. Looks as though Stealth Sheep just getting the better drive through that one, trying to take it as straight as possible. That's given him a good run up, but the outside is definitely not the place to do it into Lesmos. Traven going a little bit defensive there, trying to cover off his line. And Stealth Sheep just lifts off and tries to get the drive through on the drag down to Ascari. Meanwhile, we've got a bit of action going on, it seems, down in 11th place. NRP looks to be challenging Lionsfoot. Does look as though that's around about 1.5 seconds though, so the game actually lying to me a little bit. We'll stick with this battle for now. Battle for 8th place between Traven and Stealth Sheep. Traven currently in 8th, Stealth Sheep in 9th. Funnily enough, Traven last time around actually went quickest with a 1:48.6. I say quickest, that's his green lap for the race. Current fastest lap of the race is currently held by Bruce Law at the moment with a 1:46.85. So remember, there will be bonus points for the fastest lap come the end of the race. Also, there would have been bonus points for the podium position that Cam Diz managed to secure in that sprint race, and a bonus point for the fastest lap of that sprint race as well on offer. So Cam Diz continues to lead. He's now been able to develop up a 2.5 second lead to Duftinho after Ritz PT decided to come into the pits. Thorsten looks to be about 40 seconds off the gap of Cam Diz at the moment. He's going to have to try and rein that in if he wants to make sure that Cam Diz doesn't get a free pit stop. Cam Diz definitely in the window. It depends how much damage he's got, but I can't imagine that there's much. It's only going to be engine damage and gearbox damage, I think, just from the natural sort of temperature of the car. He is running quite high in his tyre temperatures. So I'm not expecting that he's got away without any damage here. 213 degrees Fahrenheit. And he's pushing his car quite hard as well, trying to build up that gap as far as possible. Let's have a look at Dark Ninja. Dark Ninja running quite well in this race. Currently sat in 7th position, challenging Uniclark for 6th. We saw him finishing right down the running order in the sprint race. I think he had a couple of spins which cost him track position, but the young driver doing fantastically well in tonight's feature. If he can hold this out for another 6 laps, that'll be a great finish for him. Also, looks as though Traven and Stealth Sheep has since got the better of Traven for that 8th position. He's not too far away from Dark Ninja and Uniclark as well. Traven now relegated to 9th position in this race. NRP fortunately got wrapped up in a couple of ding-dongs early on in the race. He now sits in 12th position. He's battling Lion's Foot at the moment for 11th spot. It looks as though Turkish and VMX find themselves in acres of space currently at the back of this running order, struggling to hook the laps together. So back to our closest battle in position here. We've got Dark Ninja and Uniclark. Looks as though Uniclark has extended his lead ever so slightly. Uniclark around about half a second quicker than Dark Ninja that last time around. Have to see what happens in the next lap. In fact, it does look... Oh, I beg your pardon. My telemetry system is still showing up the fastest lap. Let me just get back to the last lap. I'm afraid I am getting contrasting information, so that's going to have to wait to refresh, I do believe. But yeah, 3 seconds difference. There, in fact, 2 seconds difference between Uniclark and Dark Ninja on the previous lap. Let's see what this one will be. I can imagine it's going to be much, much closer. 148.233 from Uniclark, a 148.426 from Dark Ninja. So Dark Ninja starting to hook these laps together and try and challenge Uniclark. In fact, Uniclark has to use the runoff there. In fact, he spun it in the end. I don't think there was any contact in the end, but Dark Ninja gets himself up into 6th position. And with only 7 seconds to go, he's next going to be challenging Thorsten in 5th place. Let's see whether or not he can make that happen. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. It's 7 seconds, in fact 6 seconds in 5 more laps. But anything can go. In fact, if our tyre temperature are anything to go by, it looks as though Thorsten's actually struggling with that front right-hand tyre. Showing up as cold on my screen at the moment, but it isn't the most accurate portrayal of the tyre temps. So we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. Cam Diz has now entered the pits. Cam Diz in on lap 20 of 25 here. That leaves Duftinho free air to run. Let's jump back to Cam Diz, see how long of a pit stop it is. Not too long, few seconds spent in there. As its PT comes round the back end of Parabolica, so it looks as though Cam Diz is going to be able to get out ahead of him. It's just whether or not he's going to be able to build up his speed quick enough. Cam Diz now entering the track, but going at a reduced rate due to the pit limiter. Looks as though Cam Diz is out way ahead there of its PT, so Cam Diz almost with a free stop. Remember, Duftinho yet to make his mandatory pit stop in this race. So Duftinho with 20 seconds ahead of his nearest rival, Cam Diz, for this feature race position. Remember, he did have the benefit of a good start in this one, good starting position from Duftinho due to his sort of low finishing position in the sprint race. Let's have a look at a battle that's forming up between Lionsfoot and NRP. We did just touch on it earlier. NRP has been struggling to keep his brakes up into temperature and get those brakes braking effectively. Let's have a look into the first chicane. Looks to be quite good. In fact, he manages to make a massive gain on Lionsfoot, potentially having to double brake there to make sure that he didn't collide with the Ferrari in the end. So good going from those guys. Looks as though Uniclark has now caught up to Traven as well. So him currently battling for position. Uniclark, in respect to Traven in the championship, very, very close indeed. Uniclark currently in 8th position on 126 points. This is after race 4, ladies and gents, not including tonight's sprint race. But Uniclark on 126 points in 8th position, Traven in 6th place on 141. So not a big difference between these two drivers, so this position will certainly count to their championship finishing position. We'll see how that one progresses through. Duftinho, though, last time around setting a 147.601. Looks as though he's eased off a little bit. In fact, my telemetry looks as though it's going to need restarting because it's definitely not showing me the right information. Let's get that restarted and hopefully kick him back up and in sync. We can see there, Duftinho last time around, Cam Diz. Bear in mind that he had a pit stop involved, that's why it's a 151. Didn't lose much time at all. So as my telemetry is back up and running, it's just waiting for the data to sync up. And continue to watch this battle unfold for 8th place. Uniclark in the Bentley challenging Traven in the Lamborghini. Looked as though he was going to be able to get it done there. Uniclark just unable to get the inside line up alongside Traven after it looked as though it was a slight mistake, slight overcorrection being made coming out of the second chicane. We see that marginal difference there. Just all about Traven clipping that outside curb on the way out of the second Lesmos, and that's just allowed Uniclark to pull up into his rear quarter and maybe challenge him into the braking of Ascari. That Lamborghini certainly looking a lot more balanced through the chicane sections here. We see Uniclark just getting a little bit squirrely out the back end. Let's have a look at a battle that's progressing through between two Ferraris. Dark Ninja in 6th position, Stealth Sheep in 7th. Dark Ninja with a very good race here in tonight's feature. As I mentioned earlier, currently in 6th. Stealth Sheep will be looking to try and show him what a bit of age and experience does in the same car. Stealth Sheep with a definite tough job on his hands. 2 laps remaining in tonight's feature race. When is Duftinho going to come in? We're going to see him come in at the end of this lap. We're currently tracking him around the circuit now. He's just on the approach up to Parabolica. Let's see whether or not he hugs up the inside line here. Or whether or not he's going to try and build upon it. Get another hot lap down to try and get himself a free pit stop. Nope, now is definitely the time. He brakes just in time for that 37 miles an hour pit marker. And now keep your eyes on the cars now entering Parabolica on your map on the right hand side. That is the soon-to-be race leader, I believe. Rapid pit stop there from Duftinho. That is exactly what he would have wanted. Flipping over to Cam Diz, though, it looks as though he's going to make the pass as Duftinho exits the pit lane, comes off the limiter, and it looks as though its PT is also going to do it. Duftinho falls back into third place, and he's soon to have Bruce Law and Thorsten. Oh no, just Bruce Law it seems for company. That looks as though it's the lapped car of Alright Turkish, currently running at the back there in the Audi R8. So Thorsten around about 14 seconds away from this front pack. Not sure what's happened to him. Did hear a little bit of radio chatter. I'm sure I'll get the full lowdown after this race, but I suspect that something's happened there. I would have expected him to be much closer than the rest of this pack. So Cam Diz leads the race on the penultimate lap, lap 24 out of 25. Let's just have a look though. 10-second penalty will be applied to Cam Diz. It's PT, therefore in with a provisional first place. In fact, Cam Diz is likely to find himself dropping all the way back into 5th position. Looks as though Thorsten also with a 2-second penalty as well. Not sure on the rest of the field. We will check it when we get our official race standings up and through. But Cam Diz leading this one ahead of its PT. Its PT's had a stunning race in this feature inside that Ferrari. Also, Bruce Law looks to be securing his second podium of the evening. Be good racing from him, and that's going to definitely put him in with a shout of that final podium spot in the final championship standings. I think he's going to surpass NRP after tonight's racing. He may well also have a chance of being in touching distance of its PT, who's currently in 3rd position. Have to wait and see how this one pans out though. We are now on the final lap of this race, lap 25 of 25. Been a great race from Cam Diz. It looks as though he's managed to pick up either multiple penalties throughout this race or one big penalty on the run up into the pits. I think it may well have been a few track limit breach penalties that's done it. However, can't fault his driving throughout all of this one. The amount of pressure that he put onto Bruce Law in its PT to take their places, really showing the range of skills that this driver's got. And if you compare that to his touring car race as well, it shows that it is both spread amongst front wheel drive and rear wheel drive cars. Its PT though, fantastic job in the Ferrari, able to take 2nd place after getting himself right up to the front of the running order early on in this one. Certainly going to help his championship conditions and help him pip ahead of Bruce Law in his battle for championship position. Looks as though Duftinho is now coming up to Bruce Law. Bruce Law will likely take the position. It would take a mistake from him on the final corner of the evening. But back over to our leader as he crosses the line after 25 laps of Monza. He takes 1st position. Watch him though, he's going to jump all the way down to 5th after a 10-second penalty has been applied. Its PT goes into 1st place, Bruce Law into 2nd, Duftinho into 3rd. And once Thorsten crosses the line, depending on when he does so, I imagine he's going to jump up into 4th position. Across the line there, and it doesn't look as though he is. After the 2 seconds have been applied, Cam Diz ends up securing 4th place. We'll check that out in the official race standings come the end of this. Stealth Sheep does enough for 6th position, so it looks as though Dark Ninja ended up losing that position to him in the end. Still 7th position from Dark Ninja is a very fine finish indeed. Uniclark does enough for 8th place, in front of Hurlo in the end in the Bentley. Lionsfoot still managing to just hold off NRP in the end. Looking at the timings, no penalties to be applied from these drivers, so Lionsfoot takes 10th position. NRP, that is not going to do his championship standings any good at all in 11th place. Traven had to make a late pit stop, I just noticed there, on the final lap of the race. I suspect that that's down to fuel, as I see 2 litres remaining inside his tank. So Traven ends up finishing this one in 12th position, ahead of VMX Rider in 13th. Looks as though Alright Turkish finds him all the way down the pack in 14th position. Evan was a retiree from this race. I do believe it was an injury, potentially forcing Evan into the pit lane. But here's the final running order for tonight's race. It's PT securing that top place on the podium, followed by Bruce Law, and Duftinho does enough for 3rd in the end. Cam Deers, after his 10-second penalty applied, finishes in 4th position, ahead of Thorsten in 5th. Stealth Sheep ends up topping out ahead of Dark Ninja in 6th and 7th position. So all 3 of our reserve drivers finishing in 4th, 6th and 7th in the end. Definitely putting on a good show for all of our viewers tonight. Uniclark does enough for 8th place, ahead of Hurlo. Lionsfoot ends up getting the better of our league coordinator NRP in 10th and 11th place, with Traven in 12th, VMX Rider in 13th, Alright Turkish 14th, and then Evan did not finish, unfortunately, in that race. So that's all from race 5 of our GT3 Championship. Remember, we're going to begin our final week with the touring cars. You can join me and the rest of the guys live at 8 o'clock on Tuesday for that race. Going to be an absolute cracker on the Bathurst circuit. Up until then, if you want more information about what we do here at Rubbins Racing, head on over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk. You'll be able to join our Discord from there. You'll be able to find out more information about what we offer, or if you enjoy our content, you'll be able to make a donation, which would be gladly approved and pushed back into this fine community that we serve. Up until then, that is all from me. I've been your commentator, Murphy, for the evening, and I'll join you all again on Tuesday, live at 8 o'clock UK time, here on the Rubbins Racing YouTube channel. Up until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, however you're spending it, and we'll see you again very shortly. Good night.